Niners got the win, but at what cost? At what cost, Kyle, I ask you? Yeah, they blew out the Dolphins, and that's great, and Brock Purdy looks fine, but I didn't want to see Brock Purdy. No, I didn't want to see Brock Purdy step foot on a football field the rest of the season. Probably even the rest of his career, if I'm being honest. But instead, no, here we are in week 14, heading into week 14. Jimmy Garoppolo, broken foot, possibly multiple broken bones in there, out for the season. Trey Lance, out for the season. Rolled up on his ankle. Kyle Shanahan asked about it in multiple press conferences since Jimmy Garoppolo's injury if they thought Trey Lance could come up and play. He says no. Niners have to be reviewing all possibilities. There's some other quarterback news we'll get into here in a little bit. We'll hold off right now just because, we'll let it play out. But Kyle, what's your first reaction seeing that Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt?
So in our group chat, we had an interesting moment happen where I was super excited to watch the Dolphins, 49ers, and Kansas City Cincinnati games. They happened to be at the same time, but they were 4 of the 7 best teams in the NFL playing against each other at the same time. But the thing was, I was watching the end of Jets and Vikings. And then when I was able to flip on Dolphins and 49ers, I was like, wait, why is Brock Purdy in the game? Wait, what happened here? Where's Garoppolo? And then you see him getting carted off on the sidelines. I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. Just like that. I didn't even see it. It's just 1 minute to the next.
Yes.
Gone.
And in fact, even if you were just watching the game in entirety, it caught you by surprise because the broadcast team didn't really even point it out. Hell, when he was on the cart, no one was even pointing it out. It took them like an extra commercial break to come back and say, oh, by the way, Jimmy Garoppolo is on a card and like heading on out of here. And we're like, what? What just happened?
NFL Red Zone didn't even use the fun music that gives me heart attacks every time it starts playing and I'm watching a highlight and I'm like, oh my God, am I about to watch a player get decapitated?
Well, if you freeze frame it, the injury did look pretty bad and you have no mystery as to the severity of said injury when you actually look at the still frame of a Miami Dolphins defender kind of sitting knee first on a bent foot from Jimmy Garoppolo. And I hate it. I hate it for the guy because it kind of feels very IT-esque, gain a major injury when you're just about to get a deal. Literally that morning, I'm sending you guys a message from Ian Rappaport saying that the Niners will be open to bringing back Jimmy Garoppolo on potentially even a multi-year deal. Jimmy Garoppolo had probably another 3-year, $100 million deal lined up with, if not the Niners, at least another team. And now his future is a big question mark moving forward. Now it's the future of the 49ers depends on literally Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick of the 2022 NFL draft. Want a fun stat, Kyle?
I would love one.
Purdy is the first ever Mr. Irrelevant to throw a forward pass in an NFL game.
That's great. That's so great.
Yeah. Not a lot of quarterbacks taken at the Mr. Irrelevant spot, but still, it is a unique thing. And the Niners season rests on this guy. And I've seen a lot of Niners fans open to the idea of Brock Purdy coming in and everything just being fine. He can just make every throw that Jimmy Garoppolo can make, right? That was the same argument that I heard Niners fans make when Nick Mullins was playing, when CJ Beathard was playing, when other quarterbacks filled in for the
Brian
Niners.
Hoyer.
Yes. The bottom line is Kyle Shanahan's record without Jimmy Garoppolo becomes that much more amplified at 9-29. Now we get to see it once again. You have all this elite pieces on this team, right? The defense is amazing. Christian McCaffrey, Ayuk, Kittle, Debo. Brock Purdy shouldn't be that bad, right? He should be fine. It should be just plug and play. We're going to have to see it. If Kyle's the genius that everyone proclaims he is nationally, we're going to have to see it because you're going to need all the genius to come out for you to be able to make this thing work. I think the Niners were pretty much unanimously the team to come out of the NFC by a lot of people. I mean, you had a few people swaying Eagles, but it was kind of a toss-up, right? And now it's like, okay, I mean, if they want a playoff game, that defense, I could see it. I could see it potentially happening. But to win a road playoff game, because you at least have one. You're not passing Minnesota. You're not passing Philly. You at least have one road game that you're going to have to play. And then at that point, it's like, okay, can you beat Dallas if you have to face them coming down the road? Or can you go on the road again to face Philadelphia? It just sounds like a lot. And Brock Purdy, a lot of people are making the Nick Foles comparison too. Nick Foles had solid NFL numbers prior to that 2017 magical year. Nick Foles had that one Chip Kelly season where he had like 22, 27 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions. He had like that 7 touchdown game. That was what Nick Foles was doing prior to this. Brock Purdy has an interesting resume when you look at his Iowa State career, but no way do I see him just coming in and being the guy or being a guy that just could carry a roster or at least hold par, because at least Jimmy Garoppolo, again, we go back and forth. He at least held par. That's all I'm asking, right?
So I want to be very particular about how I describe this. Brock Purdy can lead the San Francisco 49ers to a championship. This San Francisco 49ers team. And no other team in the league could put Brock Purdy in this situation and have a championship level team. Not Kansas City, not Buffalo, certainly not Baltimore. I think we'll talk about that in another video. No other team in the league can insert Brock Purdy and still be okay. And the 49ers are not normal. They can insert Brock Purdy and be okay. Because for all the talk about Jimmy Garoppolo and the slander that I am portrayed as being towards Garoppolo, I'm not slanderous towards Garoppolo, but that is what I'm made out to be.
You have a theme song, man.
I have a good theme song, though, about Ron Rivera wanting to make a trade. It's great. And Ron Rivera might still make a trade for Garoppolo. I'm just saying that, look, Jimmy Garoppolo versus Brock Purdy is certainly a drop-off. And I said at the beginning of the season, if Trey Lance gives you rookie year Baker Mayfield numbers, which is 28 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, you will be okay. You have the best team in the NFL. Jimmy Garoppolo on the 49ers offense alone might be like the 8th most valuable player on the team. On the offensive side of the ball alone, we're talking about Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, if Kyle Juszczyk.
I will push back here in this respect. Week 18, Rams, Trent Williams out. They still win that game. Deebo Samuel has missed a game this year. George Kittle has missed multiple games throughout the last 2 years. The only time that the Niners are consistently a bad team is when they've had injuries at the quarterback position.
So,
in particular, Jimmy Garoppolo.
In fairness, I'm being disingenuous. I know how valuable the quarterback position is in the NFL. The next point I was going to say is, like, I bet you Brunskill is better at what he does than Jimmy Garoppolo is at what he does. But again, the positions are not apples to apples. So, like, I'm being disingenuous when I say that. The point being, if Brock Purdy gives them 20 for 30, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception, which was his exact stat line at one point against the Miami Dolphins. A lot of that yards after catch on screens to Deebo Samuel. If he gives you that, you will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's 1 interception a game, you will be okay.
I guess my question as to the next point of the evaluation, can he do that, is he was able to play what we consider a weekend Miami Dolphins defense, right? A defense that hasn't been very good this year and really showed that against the Niners on a week in which he was not expected to play. We've seen backups come in plenty of times, no tape, especially a rookie like Brock Purdy who has no tape in the NFL, come in, shocking on the defense and put up an amazing line, right? Bailey Zappi, Mike White, we see it all the time. Can he do that? Next week, they're welcoming in Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Can Brock Purdy do that now that he has game tape? Now that he's the guy? Now that he's getting first team reps? Now that we're going to get a better evaluation of Brock Purdy as an NFL starting quarterback than we will of Trey Lance through 2 years?
This is correct, and that infuriates me so much. And by the way, against that Tampa offense, you might be able to get away with giving up 0 points because that team is incapable of scoring 20 points in a game.
They're bad. They are. Like I saw the Monday night game. I saw bits and pieces. They are bad. But
look,
the
only reason this is the case is that the 49ers have the number 1 rushing defense in the NFL, not just this season, the last 3 seasons combined. They have the best rushing defense in the NFL. They have had the best scoring defense in the NFL the past 8 weeks of the season, which I would argue is around when they started getting healthy. San Francisco, the reason this is able to exist, the reason that Brock Purdy can play championship level football and that they're the only team that can exist is the thing that I keep trying to tell you all the time or remind you. The 49ers are not normal, man. The 49ers just slide in Pro Bowlers to replace other Pro Bowlers and guys get injured and it doesn't matter because, we lose Jason Verrett, whatever, we're fine. We lose Charvarius Ward, we're fine. We're still number 1 defense. We're going to have 7 Pro Bowlers on the offense, either current or former Pro Bowlers, about of the 11 positions. Because Brandon Ayuk's not a Pro Bowler, but he's a very good receiver. So like they are an incredible team, and that's what's going to get them forward. It's not about Purdy. Purdy's just don't screw this up for us.
But it is so much about Purdy. And the question is whether he's going to be closer to Garoppolo, because at least you would look at that Miami stat line and you say he was close to Garoppolo that week. Or is he going to be closer in his career to Nick Mullins? History would suggest he's going to be closer to Nick Mullins. Yeah. And they couldn't win with Nick Mullins. And people will say like, oh, this is completely different. What is so different about an undrafted rookie quarterback in Nick Mullins versus the last overall pick in the NFL draft? Maybe financial difference, but...
Oh, no, there's no difference. There's no difference between them as prospects or players. Like Nick Mullins is the backup on the Vikings. Purdy's the backup on 49ers.
CJ Beathard, a 3rd round pick that Kyle Shanahan traded up to acquire.
The difference is Shanahan has a ridiculously large amount of talent now. And that's, I think, what's different from when we saw Nick Mullins during that 4-12 season. I think that the difference for them is they have talented players at not every other position, but more positions than other teams have. And the good flip side is I've seen Jimmy Garoppolo win not 1, but 2 playoff games in which he did not complete a pass for 90 minutes.
I think the answer is in the margins and less in the box score when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo performances, because there's 4 or 5 key 3rd down conversions in a game that I have to now depend on a 7th round rookie to make. 3rd down completions are where it really starts to count. Those money downs. I just have my questions on whether Purdy can perform in those situations. And if not Purdy, the next question, someone else, because we do have some other quarterback news to drop today. Baker Mayfield was granted his release from the Carolina Panthers. Now he goes to waivers. There's a chance that every team in the NFL lets him clear waivers. There's also a chance that teams that have waiver priority over the 49ers just decide to kind of like jump in. There's also the chance that Niners just aren't interested because they don't think that Baker Mayfield's very good. And here's what I'll say about Baker Mayfield in general. I think if the Niners sign him, it is not for him to be the starter because they will give Brock Purdy the opportunity to be the starting quarterback. Baker Mayfield will sign with the expectation of being the backup. And that's fine because right now, the Niners' track record of keeping quarterbacks healthy is not looking very good.
Baker Mayfield would only cost $1.4 million to a team that claims him off waivers. If he clears waivers, no one wants him. Like the 49ers would claim him off waivers if the opportunity presented itself. Like if they don't claim him outright off waivers, they don't want him. If someone before them doesn't, nobody wants him.
And I want to be clear. It's not an indictment on Brock Purdy if they sign him. It's an indictment on Josh Johnson. It's an indictment on practice squad Jacob Eason. And if the 49ers decide that Baker Mayfield is worse than both of those respective players, well, then that's the indictment on Baker Mayfield because he has played that bad. But here's what I would say. If we are in that worst of worst situations where we literally drop to our 4th string quarterback during the course of a year, I've seen Baker Mayfield surrounded with enough talent win a playoff game before. It took a lot. It took the best running game in the NFL. It took one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, but he did trounce the rival Pittsburgh Steelers by 40 points in that game. Again, not all Baker Mayfield, but with enough talent on the roster, he made just enough throws. He was in that game against the Chiefs the following week. It's possible that with a roster and the roster we're describing for the 49ers, you could. The problem is he's a backup. He's a backup tier quarterback.
Yeah, it's marginal difference at this point, but that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about Josh Johnson being the margins at this point, and not 1-2 quarterbacks going down for San Francisco with catastrophic injuries. So, I mean, it'd be a talking point. I mean, I think Baker Mayfield would be better off on a tanking team at this point. I mean, I know he just got cut by Carolina, but like you said, he's a backup quarterback. He's going to have we talked about this on a previous video, like rethinking your identity when he is so much fueled by I'm going to prove the haters wrong. I am the undersized, overlooked guy, and I'm just going to carry a boulder on my shoulders. And that's what's going to motivate me. At a certain point, grit and motivation can't overcome. I mean, like, not even Tom Brady is grit and motivation overcoming. Like, at a certain point, it's going to not go well. And I think this is kind of the plateau where Baker Mayfield has to rethink his identity. And for the 49ers, I don't see the upside in it.
I have some
Brock
more.
Purdy's going to be fine.
I have some more stats to drop here too. You know, Baker Mayfield with a clean pocket is only completing 60% of his passes. So he might just not be very good at the end of the day.
He's the third stringer on the Panthers.
Behind Sam Darnold and PJ Walker, XFL MVP.
Yeah. And look, Baker Mayfield is going to eventually find himself a spot in the NFL. It might not be for 10 years, like I said on a previous video. Just for the 49ers, there's no point. There's no point. Like, what are you adding? Baker Mayfield, even at his best, doesn't add significant value compared to 20 for 30, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Mm-hmm. Like, if that's all you need, Brock Purdy just proved he's capable of doing it by throwing screens to Debo.
Yeah. Now, the next question is going to be the consistency from Brock Purdy, right? 20 for 30. Is that a stat line you could count on? Or was it aberration from opponent / again, shock and awe? That's the question the Niners will have to answer. But anyway, guys, we'll leave it up to you now. Decide in the comment section, are the Niners still the favorite out of the NFC? Or are there people that are still holding strong and think of them as Super Bowl contenders? We'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all our social medias. From Ju-Ju and Kyle, stay safe, happy, and healthy, and we will see you next time.